from one of our last articles in As-Sabiqun, toward a new global harmony. Toward a new global harmony. This is January 2012. Can you imagine? That's 8.5 years ago. That's really something. And this year, 2012, humanity stands at the threshold of a new earth. How this new earth will look depends on how humanity as a whole responds to the great challenges and opportunities which present themselves. In order to develop a new world of global harmony, the present human being must improve. The stakes are high. If we want a new world, we must have a new human family to produce it. In other words, if we want a new world, the people that exist right now will only build a world like they're accustomed to. When they discovered this, remember in the old books they used to call this the New World, when they came up, all they brought over, since they were not revived and restored and renewed, they just brought what they had there over here. Just like if they go out of space somewhere and they haven't improved, they're just going to take the misery and the suffering and all the Star Wars films. Look at them. What are they doing? They fighting the same old wars that they have down here for the same old dumb reasons with high-tech weapons, right? Because the people that make them do not visualize a new world that by that time we should have evolved. If we didn't evolve mechanically, right? What we have now, if it was done right, would be utopian for 100 years ago. And they had technology. 100 years ago, they were just getting tractors and they was getting good things to deal with. They could even fly then, 100 years ago. Yeah, 1920, they was flying. But since the people don't transform themselves, they keep repeating their same behavior because they don't visualize the great world of possibilities. A well-known concept within Islam is Islah. The word Islah has several connotations, including improvement, betterment, correction, reconditioning, and cultivation. It involves growth, advancement, becoming better, evolving to a higher state or level of excellence. Inshallah, with a process of Islah among humanity will also come a healthy recovery of the earth. With the proper consciousness and assistance of mankind, the earth must be allowed to regenerate whatever natural systems are necessary to return it to a state of balance. I'll repeat the last part. The earth must be allowed to regenerate whatever natural systems are necessary to return it to a state of balance. Today, on an economic level, many people have come to realize that free market greed-based capitalism has brought about the 1% and the 99% global imbalance in which wealth and resources are disproportionately concentrated amongst a few. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created this world in balance, mizan. This divine balance has been subject to a steady deterioration and regression set in motion by the low motives and inclinations of past generations, led by uncontrolled and undeveloped human beings. The new, improved, and advanced 21st century model human being must now reverse this global trend. Of course, we talk about it all the time. That's basically what we want to do. Participate in evolving an improved human being. That means where he said has some control of his nafs, where he has some vision, not a prison vision. You have to remember the vision that people have. They can be imprisoned by what they were born and raised in. For instance, they always talk about the great Constitution of the United States and Alexander Hamilton, George Washington, the founding fathers, all of them people. It's not that they were just bums or nothing like that, but they were prisoners of what they had been living with, kings and rulers, and they got new writings that had them think a little bit. They had free press. By 1735, Peter Zinger and all those guys, Thomas Mann, all that stuff. So they were, for that time, liberating themselves from past kingships.
Feudalism.
Feudalism. Yeah, well, they had in those days, it was the landed gentry.
Right.
It was the priest, and it was the kings.
Right.
Yeah. So you're part of the royalty, the landed gentry, like the dukes and earls and all those guys. Or the priest class. And they ran the show, and they cooperated with each other. Right? Even in the New Testament, it tells people that they should follow their slaves, its master, and what have you. Although Islam says a lot similar to that, but the slavery in Islam is not the slavery that they had here. Okay, so we have to clarify that. Don't worry, we're going to have a special, since I done slipped at the tongue, we're going to have a special program on that very subject. Don't worry, they're not the same. Just to be brief and quickly, if for technically a slave or a slave master, right, his servant got educated just like the other guys. He had to educate his children. He couldn't raise the people to another generation. Your children that they have gonna be slaves. And when they got educated, the one that owned, or whatever you want to call it, his kids, they got the same food and they got the same education, according to the Hadith. Okay, now, we can refer to the current time period as an era of evolutionary consciousness. The signs of this evolving global consciousness are many. We see in the rise of the Occupy Wall Street movement, which is clearly seeking global balance and harmony. We see in the reshaping of the Middle East and Africa. We see it in the rise of Asia as a prominent player in the geopolitical and economic arenas. Finally, we see it in the steady decline of Western powers' wealth, influence, and ability to direct global affairs. In other words, now this was 8 years ago. Where are we now? Where is the world compared to then? That was just 8 years ago. What direction? What direction is Asia going in? What direction is America going in? Right? So technically, we seem to have been in the proper position. Thoughts are things. A new civilization of peace. This is where visioneering comes in. Imagine yourself consciously participating in humanity's evolution. no longer a witness to all that is occurring. Visualize yourself as a fearless bearer of positive, life-affirming change. It does not matter whether your brain can comprehend the future. All that is required is your heart willing to co-create a peaceful world where harmony links us together as one. Your mind has the tremendous ability to expand beyond its human limitations. Command it to grant you access to the wisdom, knowledge, and technologies of life, and be amazed at the generosity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Feel yourself in the presence of creativity, exploring wholesome new living environments. Embrace the spiritual freedom to build a world that is in harmony with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will. Okay, that's good enough. That's way out there. Who will change the world? The growing chasm between the obsolete institutions of the 20th century and the destabilizing trends of the 21st century. It's a bad sign. Which social actors can tilt history toward a great transition? Multilateral bodies are enfeebled by the myopia of nationalism. The private sector is subject to the tyranny of the bottom line, and civil society organizations are limited by organization and philosophical fragmentation. Collectively, actions for a suitable and just global society remain too dispersed, diffused, and small scale. Progress painstakingly won here and there is overwhelmed by systematic deterioration. While the public's awareness of emerging dangers grows, apprehension breeds fear and resignation in the absence of a compelling alternative vision. The awakening of concern and the upsurge of civil society activity paves the way for a new force on the global stage. A global citizens movement. A systematic movement would connect issues, themes, and regions in a common project to mute global dangers and advance a vision for planetary civilization. That's why we always refer to ourselves as planetarians. You know, what we did last week. An adaptive process of learning, educating, and organizing would necessarily involve a politics of trust and a predisposition toward common good and common ground, and tolerating proximate differences would nurture the ultimate basis of solidarity. To envision a great transition is to imagine a society based on trust, tolerance, and solidarity. Embodying these norms as a means to that end is integral. Just briefly. Vision and action. As the world rushes recklessly toward an uncertain future, a growing number of global citizens are becoming concerned. It is easy to fall prey to the 3 Ds of anxious culture: denial, despair, and distraction. Denial, despair, and distraction. You know, a lot of the stuff that the boss man do is try to make you despair, that there's no sense in it. They just niggas, you know what I mean? And they you know, and ain't no sense you leaving nothing behind. You gotta use it up now. You know, my relatives did that to their children. It was terrible. They got nice and rich, but you know what? When they got close to death, they bought up everything you could imagine. They got loans on all the property they owned. And then when they died within a couple of months of each other. They had all of that stuff, but nobody wanted. The kids didn't want all them Cadillacs, big new trucks, and all of that. They let them almost rot. They just didn't want them. You know what I mean? And the people were so hung up on not leaving anything behind and being so-called smart, still leaving them something behind, you know, like I'm gonna spend it up now, and they did. They spent up most of it. Oh, they kept wealth, but shoot, they done got loans on all the property, and they just catching up now to where they have some wealth. It's unbelievable. It's not always what you leave behind, it's what you send ahead. We focus on what we send ahead. Because what you leave behind, you can't do nothing about that. When you die, shoot, people gonna start dancing and sliding and everything else, and you can't stop them from going crazy. You can't do it. So why not send things ahead? That, in other words, deposit your wealth in the universal bank of Allah, where you get 750 times the return or more, right? And it's of a different nature, it's of a different reality. It just increase on top of increase. That's all it is. So, we believe that we have a role to play. We can offer an anecdote by gaining the insight, cultivating the values, and taking common action for a great transition. We hope to serve as a beacon and catalyst for hope and vision for a new global consciousness and policy. And here it has something, develop a position statement, number one, develop a vision statement, number two, and develop a mission statement, number three. This is just some of the, number 11 here. Achieve impossible dream by stimulating earth consciousness, race consciousness, money consciousness, and general human consciousness. In other words, the impossible dream. That was a song, I think, Impossible Dream. The Impossible Dream. Yeah, I kind of liked it. That's just, but they would play it behind Don Quixote. You know Don Quixote, the guy that fight windmills? Yeah. But, you know, about impossible dreams. I can't get over it. And I'm not bragging, but for every impossible dream that I had them all. I hooked them all up. Even what we're doing now, this is part of a fact that's better than it's nice. This is all the Black Panther button. This, you can see the look. It's purely Black Panther, Free Huey and everything. Of course, I'm dressed, my leather jacket is better than theirs, but I mean, you know, that's not important. Creating a new global civilization of Islam. You know, that's what we're talking. Creating a new global system or civilization of Islam. That's what 23. 23 years ago? Yeah, that was what we were meeting for then. Create a new global civilization of Islam. These are some of my homegirls. In fact, all of them have passed away now, to tell you the truth. But when I got big, I never left, you know, I didn't go around trying to get pointed nose girlfriends and stuff like that. But actually, my regular homegirls, they didn't look too bad, you know what I mean? They was, and then the Negroes had all the children. These are typical Negroes of the era. A house full of kids, and you know, and you can see they're young, they just getting started. But wealth beyond what was good physical shape and all that, just handsome, sharp. See, they got niggas that was cutie pie niggas, you know, and stuff, but they had very few, it was a few handsome Negroes. And Black is Beautiful had just come in. Shoot, here's his brother right here. Black is Beautiful. Hey man, that was sweet. It ain't in like it was. It slips in and out. You know, and like the newspapers say, in those days, they still had black newspapers. You couldn't get in the white man's newspaper. But a fashion statement, fine rings, talent agent. What I mean, and think about it here. Think about the movement. By the time we had started and opened our Masjid, or let's go back to 45 years ago. Between reading the Bible and reading the Quran, we knew the character of Negroes. And being in the movement, going all overseas, we already knew who was the. So we named ourselves Musa, Moses. Why? Because the people gonna be just like that. You can bring them across the sea. First of all, you can get them away from Pharaoh. That ain't shooting Pharaoh. That ain't nothing. Then get them across the sea, right? And then on dry land, then drown Pharaoh right in front of you. You know what I mean? That's pretty big. Now for me, that would have did me. I don't need no more. What? That's fine. I'm with you. But those people, our people, Moses,